is the Constitution? Chapter 1, a limping government. In 1787, the United States of America had a name, and it had a flag. Yet many things were missing to make it a true nation. There was no president. There was no central court system. Neither was there a U.S. Army or a Navy. There was no Senate or House of Representatives, only a weak Congress. Congress could pass laws, but it could not enforce them. For instance, Congress could charge taxes to pay off war debts, but it had to rely on the goodwill of the states to pay up. People's loyalty to their states made it hard for them to think of themselves as Americans. During the Revolution, George Washington asked soldiers from New Jersey to swear loyalty to America. What an odd request, they said. New Jersey was their country. Loyalty to one state was rooted in history. The 13 colonies had been settled at different times by different groups of people. Each state developed its own way of life, often with its own religion and customs. Strict Puritans had settled New England. Peace-loving Quakers founded Pennsylvania. Although the main language of the colonies was English, tens of thousands spoke German in Pennsylvania. Shopkeepers and fishermen thrived in New England, whereas in the South was mainly agriculture. The Articles of Confederation held the states together well enough to fight the war, but afterwards, each state was happy to go its own way again. Soldiers returned home, and each state got busy creating its own constitution and electing its own leaders. But what about being a country? Some leaders, like George Washington, James Madison, and Alexander Hamilton, wanted the United States to be a strong nation with a solid central government, one that would oversee all the states. These leaders were called nationalists. But other leaders wanted power to remain with the states, just as it did with the Articles of Confederation. The Articles promised that the states would remain sovereign. That meant each state was still its own boss. What about the Union? The Articles described the Union loosely as a league of friendship. How well did this government work? Not too well. By 1787, America's troubles could fill a long list. So this is a little biography about Alexander Hamilton, 1755 to 1804. Nobody fought harder for the Constitutional Convention than Alexander Hamilton. Born on an island in the British West Indies, Alexander arrived in America as a teenager. Without strong roots in any state, Hamilton developed a grand vision for the nation as a whole. Brilliant and fiery, Hamilton had played an important role in the American Revolution as an aide to George Washington. Hamilton attended the Constitutional Convention as a delegate from New York. Afterwards, he served as President George Washington's first cabinet as the Secretary of the Treasury. Hamilton's life was cut short in 1804 when Aaron Burr, the vice president, shot him in a duel. Dun, dun. Some states charged fees for goods bought in other states, as if they were foreign countries. Lands west of the original 13 colonies were being settled, and disagreement broke out over which states controlled them. Continental money was all but worthless, so 7 states printed their own paper money, but it was no good outside of their boundaries. George Washington, back home in Virginia, grew alarmed at what was happening to his country. Congress is a half-starved, limping government, he complained, always moving on crutches and tottering at every step. Also, in 1786, a crisis broke out in western Massachusetts. Many poor farmers were losing their land because they couldn't pay their states high taxes. Under Daniel Shays, a former Revolutionary War captain, a mob of 2,000 farmers decided to rebel. They marched on Springfield, armed with axes, pitchforks, and muskets. The weak Congress couldn't put together an armed force, so Massachusetts sent its own troops and stopped the rebellion. In the end, 4 men lay dead. Shays' rebellion shook the nation. Americans were killing Americans. "I am mortified beyond expression," said George Washington. Mortified means very, very embarrassed. Alexander Hamilton had this to say: "There's only one remedy, to call a convention of all the states, and the sooner the better. If the government wasn't made stronger, it would all fall apart." Even Congress agreed that the Articles of Confederation needed changes. So it asked the states to elect delegates to attend a special meeting in Philadelphia. In May of 1787, newspapers called it the Grand Convention. No one called it the Constitutional Convention, of course, because who knew that the whole new Constitution was about to be written?